keep your eye on the donut, not on the hole. David Lynch died, and I'm devastated. I know most, if not all, of the subscribers to this channel are here for music-related stuff. But if you've looked around the channel, you might have noticed that there's quite a bit of cinema-related things that I've done. Movies were my first love, really. I was about 8 years old, and I just went crazy for them. And I still am. It's just, you can't replace that feeling of sitting in a theater with that giant screen, and then the lights go down and the movie starts, and as David said, you go into a world and you forget everything for a couple hours. David Lynch was one of my heroes, is one of my heroes. I look up to him tremendously. I first became aware of him in 1978 when I first moved to LA. There was this midnight movie at the New Art Theater that people were talking about called Eraserhead. And so finally I went to see that midnight on every Friday. Just mind-boggling. I'd never seen anything like it. And immediately I just completely loved this guy that could make something so visionary and so out of the ordinary. I was gobsmacked by it, and I still am. I watch Eraserhead a couple of times a year. It's just an amazing work of art. But the thing about David is he was an artist in the real sense of the word. He's known primarily for being a filmmaker, you know, that wacky, eccentric guy that makes those kind of weird movies, you know, or he's known for Twin Peaks and Coffee and Cherry Pie. But films were just one of his mediums, because a true artist makes art with whatever they have at hand. And Picasso was known for his paintings, but then he learned sculpture. And they're just different mediums. You know, you work with charcoal, you work with pastels, oils, watercolor. Those are mediums. Lynch started out as a visual artist. He went to art school, decided he wanted to live what he called the art life, which is a great documentary. I recommend it highly. And he did live the art life, because he spent every day of his adult life creating something in whatever medium. And he was a visual artist, he was a filmmaker, he was an actor, he was a musician, and anything he touched, he'd turn it into art. He spent every day of his adult life creating something. He built his own furniture. He built a lot of the things he used in his house that became his studio. And it's just, and it all has that certain quality to it. It all has his personality, but that's not really that surprising, because if an artist takes up a different medium, then they're good at expressing themselves. It's going to come through. When Miles Davis was older and he was living in Malibu, he took up painting. And his paintings looked like his music. It's phenomenal. But art is art. So whether it's all abstract, music's the most abstract. Film can be very abstract. And David Lynch films are often, a lot of people say, you know, that guy, he's a weirdo, and I don't get his films. And, you know, some of the films are very challenging and quite puzzling, but they're not conventional. And mainly the thing about Lynch, if you find his stuff inaccessible, but you want to try it again, think of it as dream. Everything uses dream logic, which is to say not really any logic at all. You think of dreams that you have. Does Is waking life like that? No, of course not. And he was one of the very best filmmakers at presenting honorific visions on screen and just making it seem so completely natural that it's not like, oh, this must be a dream. But using dream logic, which is a different thing. It's all stuff that comes from the subconscious, and his ideas came from his own subconscious. But I followed his career ever since then. That 1978, I saw every film that he made and came out. You know, he did Elephant Man for Mel Brooks. And Dune was a disaster, but not his fault. And after that, he insisted on having Final Cut and everything that he did. If he couldn't control it, he didn't feel like it was his. I remember going to a matinee of Wild at Heart.
We got some dancing to do.
And there were only about 2 other people in there. And we were the only ones laughing. And the other people that gave us dirty looks on the way out there, those are the people that were laughing.
My dog barks some.
Lynch had a great sense of humor, but sometimes it could be a little dark. And his stuff would go from light to dark, you know, in a heartbeat.
Bluer than velvet was the night.
Here's the bin!
Here's the bin! Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bin.
He could have you laughing and just feeling like everything is warm apple pie, and then all of a sudden show you the most horrible, frightening nightmare vision. He was amazing, just an amazing filmmaker. He was asked in an interview how it felt to have become an adjective. Now people say that a film is Lynchian. How do you feel about that, David? And he said, I can't think about that because that makes me take my eye off the donut. And he explained that when he was a student at that art school in Philadelphia, one of his teachers said, keep your eye on the donut, not on the hole. So he didn't want to think about being an adjective. He didn't want to think about being Lynchian. He didn't get all full of himself. He kept his eye on the donut. When I got that sad news today, I spent the afternoon keeping my eye on the donut, editing a video that'll be on this channel sometime next week. I got the news from my daughter, Lauren. I turned Lauren on to Twin Peaks when she was just barely in high school. She was maybe like 15, 16. And she went crazy for it. And we just loved it. I think we've probably watched every film that he made, but we've watched Twin Peaks on, we'll do a rerun of Twin Peaks all the time. She's a huge David Lynch fan. And one time we were in LA and we were driving around the Hollywood Hills, and I was showing her places where we lived before she was born. And I said, "You want to see David Lynch's house?" And she said, "Yeah." So drove over by it, and you can't miss it because it's the house from Lost Highway. He bought it after he made that film. And his car was sitting in the driveway. I knew it was his car because I had just read an interview with him, and he described it. It was one of those weird boxy things. And I told Lauren, I said, "That's his car." Now, of course, we wouldn't have disturbed him for the world. We're not going to go ring the doorbell and say Dick Laurent is dead or anything like that. But Lauren wanted to take her lipstick and write "Let's Rock" on the windshield of his car. And I talked her out of doing that, even though that was a funny idea. But I said, you know what? That probably happens to him at least like once a week. So let's not do that. I don't want to think about a world without David Lynch. I'm not going to have a world without David Lynch because I'll be watching his films over and over again, and they hold up. And some of them are such puzzles that you always see something new. This is a little artifact. This was fan art from season 3 of Twin Peaks. It's just too sad. And when I wasn't keeping my eye on the donut today, I was angry with the Philistine Pezzo Navantes, who passed on so many of his projects. He'd been shopping films called Ronnie Rocket and One Saliva Bubble for years, and other titles I can't remember. And nobody would go for it. But someone of his artistic capability should have just been given carte blanche to make whatever he wants. And I'm especially pissed at Netflix, who had a deal with him. They put out one of his short films, What Did Jack Do, a couple of years ago.
You ever ride the rodeo?
Who told you that? Sally? I'm a plastic bag specialist.
Is that so?
And they had a deal with him that they canceled. And why? I mean, Netflix is so full of schlock, I can hardly find anything to watch. They've got all the money in the world. Why couldn't they have set some of that aside to let somebody, an artist of David Lynch's caliber, who everybody in the film world is in awe of. They love him. They don't think that, oh, he's just a wacko. No. He was a brilliant filmmaker. So shame on Netflix, shame on all those Philistines. Fellini had the same issues in the later years of his life. Nobody wanted to put up any money for a film. Wes Anderson is lucky he's got that guy from Indian Paintbrush that writes a check anytime he wants to make a film. Because these artists lose so much time and it gets so hard to get a film made. Yeah. I got the news first from Lauren this morning. She texted it to me. And like he said in so many of his weather reports that he used to do every day on YouTube, I walked out into blue skies and golden sunshine. I took a walk. Then I came home and kept my eye on the donut. The David Lynch Marathon will be starting soon, but it's hard for me to keep my eye on the donut when the hole created by his passing has become a total eclipse of the donut. That'll fade in time. He wouldn't want us to be sad. And, you know, I just ranted about idiots, suits, who nobody will remember when their time is up at whatever studio, or Netflix or whatever. Nobody's going to ever remember these knuckleheads. David Lynch is immortal. His work is forever. And when Lynch got turned down the millionth time on a project, he went home and he created. He'd sit and make a painting. And he just would, like I said, he created every day of his life. And he loved making movies, but if that wasn't happening, then he taught himself how to play guitar. He had a recording studio in his house. He'd make music.
Red his hair. He did his hair. Petey, red his hair. On fire.
He won't be forgotten. There's a lot more to say about David Lynch. The first video essay I ever made was called The Evolution of David Lynch. It's on this channel. It's kind of crude in comparison to what I make now, but what I make now is crude as well, so it's okay. I made a short film that was inspired by Twin Peaks. That's on this channel. It's called By Means of Electrical Transmission. A lot of people associate him with horrible images like the Elephant Man or you know, the lady that lived in the radiator in Eraserhead. But what he really loved was beauty. He talked about things of great beauty. And you can just hear him when Angelo Badalamenti tells the story of Lynch whispering in his ear. You're in a forest and there's wind going through the trees. And Angelo Badalamenti is just improvising at his synthesizer. And he's improvising what became the theme to Twin Peaks. And David is encouraging him. He's saying, Angelo, that's so beautiful. It's beautiful. And Lynch celebrated beauty. I mean, but he also had the best villains in the business. I mean, my God, Bobby Peru.
Bobby Peru, just like the country.
Mr. Eddie. There's too many of them to name. Frank Booth. He said Dennis Hopper called him up And it said, "You have to give me the part of Frank Booth because I am Frank Booth." And Lynch said, that scared him.
Let's fuck! I'll fuck anything that moves!
Because he said that he didn't want to meet somebody like Frank Booth, even though he wrote the character. Just what a beautiful character. I wish I had met him. I always wanted to. I never did. But I'll be celebrating and thinking of him when I walk in those blue skies with the golden sunshine. And I'm going to miss him. There's a story when Billy Wilder went to Ernst Lubitsch's funeral, and another director said to him, no more Lubitsch. And Billy Wilder said, worse, no more Lubitsch pictures. So, no more David Lynch pictures. But as I said, there'll still be things to discover. And all of his films hold up really well. Who knows what else might come out that he had squirreled away. I'm going to miss him. But then I'll just put on Eraserhead. And like I said, his films are going to live forever. They're in good shape. And you watch how many retrospectives pop up. And if you get a chance, go see any of them on the big screen. I think I'm going to start with The Straight Story. That's such a beautiful movie. And everybody thinks of David Lynch as that creepy guy, but he did a Disney movie that's rated G, and it's beautiful. So that's it for now. Next time I'll be back to talking about music or something else. So thank you, David, and thank you for watching. Good night.
And it looks like we're going to be wall to wall. Beautiful blue skies and golden sunshine all along the way. Everyone, have a great day.